Hello, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk about the 5 top dieting mistakes that often lead to binge eating. And I'm going to go into these with quite a lot of detail to make it as easy to understand for you as possible as to why this may be happening. I've done videos like this before and sort of talked about binge eating being explained fully, the triggers, and everything that comes from an emotional standpoint when it comes to binge eating. But sometimes we as women in particular, especially, set ourselves up for failure right from the get-go. So for example, first thing in the morning you wake up and you already have that negative mindset in your head that you're going to end up binge eating that day, or that you need to be restrictive in a way because you don't deserve food, okay? We as humans deserve food. You deserve to eat. You deserve to feel good when you eat. That's the most important thing, and that's what you need to remember. So if you're somebody that's waking up first thing in the morning and skipping breakfast and grabbing a coffee or something along them lines and not actually eating because they'll save you more calories throughout the rest of the day, that is your first mistake. Now, for some people this might work, especially if you're in a calorie deficit and you're in a dieting phase. Sometimes pushing our meals back further into the day really does work, okay, because it gives you a shorter eating window. However, if you're somebody that struggles with binge eating, this is not the solution for you, because what ends up happening is you're missing a meal and then you're pushing everything back further into the day, and you get into that mindset that you can have as many calories as you want in the evening because you technically didn't eat all day. But what happens is our ghrelin hormone, which is our hunger hormone, spikes through the roof, and you're genuinely hungry and you end up just going mental because we end up grabbing for convenience, right? Like, put it this way, whenever you're absolutely starving coming in through the door, it takes a lot of willpower to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to stand in front of the cooker and I'm going to cook myself some chicken, some rice, some pasta, whatever the case might be, compared to opening the cupboard and just grabbing handfuls of things to satisfy that craving and satisfy that hunger. It's a lot easier to grab these convenience things. And the issue with high convenience things is that or foods in particular, is the fact that they are usually very high in calories, very high in carbs and fats, okay? None of us end up grabbing a chicken breast just for the sake of it. You know what I mean? We grab the croissant, we grab the packet of crisps, the popcorn, the biscuits that are lying about. That's what we end up going for. And that's essentially what ends up throwing you off track when you are stuck in that mentality and that cycle. So you waking up first thing in the morning and skipping breakfast with the mentality that you're going to save those calories later on into the day will just end up with you actually going overboard and spiraling and eating way more than you needed to because you chose to skip one of your meals. Your meals are super important. They are what keep your energy level stable, that keep your blood sugar level stable as well, which avoids that constant like high and low, especially when there's increases and drops in your blood sugar levels and your energy levels, okay? When energy isn't stable throughout the day, we constantly get spikes. And the issue with those spikes is as much as they increase super quickly and you might get that surge of energy, you might feel better for 20-30 minutes, that comes crashing down just as quickly, and then you're looking for the next thing and the next thing again. So as much as you may think that, you know, pushing your meals back or skipping that meal will allow you more room to play with and more calories to play with come the evening, you're actually self-sabotaging yourself, and your body's just genuinely hungry and you feel like you have no control around food. The truth is you do have control around food, you're just setting yourself up for self-sabotage and self-failure. So in this particular video, I want to break down mainly like why we tend to binge eat at night, because most of us don't wake up in the morning and go straight for a binge. It normally happens at night when we've had a long day at work, when, you know, our day maybe was a little bit more stressful, we have more downtime, boredom, everything else, and that hunger also catches up with you throughout the day. And the reason I'm speaking about this is because I actually hear it so often from women that I work with or women that are coming onto the team, and they say like, I'm always so good during the day, but I just have no self-control around night time. And I will always question them on their habits and their choices throughout the day. And I will usually be able to pinpoint exactly where they went wrong. And once we fix that issue, they realize that their binge eating isn't actually as frequent as they think, or they do have self-control and they do have control around food, but they've just been limiting themselves right up to this point. So yeah, the first one, like I said, skipping breakfast. The next thing is maybe going for something super light for lunch that isn't going to fill you. I know salads are such a common thing to grab for lunch, and a lot of women don't even like salads, but they're eating them because they're trying to be good. Being good is what keeps you stuck. It's what's keeping you restricted, okay? And salads are never going to fill you up unless they're highly loaded with protein. I would much rather you have a protein-based meal with, I don't know, chicken mince, tuna, salmon, anything, red meat, whatever it is that you want in there, and base your meat and base the rest of your meal in around that meat source, just to keep yourself fuller rather than you go for a salad as the lower calorie alternative. Because we know that, one, you're more than likely not enjoying that meal. So what happens there, if you're not enjoying it, your cravings are going to rise and you're going to be wanting something else, and you're more likely going to overindulge anyway. And secondly, it's not going to keep you full. And if it doesn't keep you full, your satiety is not high, you're going to be hungrier, you're more than likely to overindulge. Okay. Also, for any of you listening, a protein bar is not a lunch, okay? A lunch is proper food. You want whole foods at least 3 times a day. You can put the protein bar or whatever in between and consider yourself as being good and being on track. That's there as fillers for your meals. It's not there as a replacement for your meal. And it definitely doesn't equate to a full meal. Definitely not. And then little things like telling yourself you're not allowed snacks throughout the day. For example, chocolate's bad, I can't have pasta with my lunch, that's too high in calorie. Or I don't know, I'm not allowed to have a biscuit with my cup of tea. That's keeping you in that restriction cycle, which I described in the very first video I done on binge eating. Okay, if you're restricting yourself, that craving is going to grow. Cravings don't go away on their own. Okay, they really don't, and they will rise and rise and rise. The food noise is going to consume you, and you will end up going completely mental because you are applying that restriction onto food. There is no such thing as foods being good and bad. Some foods have better nutritional value, others just simply don't. We need a balance of both in order to stay happy to start with, to keep ourselves in a good place, and to avoid ruining our relationship with food. So if you're somebody that's labeling foods like chocolate, pasta, popcorn, ice cream as bad foods, you are going to end up binge eating, and you will never get over this fat loss phase that you have been stuck in. You're constantly going to be stuck in that cycle. You need to make sure that, yes, your main meals, like I said, whole foods, you want a protein, carb and fat source, but in between that you can have the biscuit, you can have the chocolate bar, because this is what avoids you from going completely overboard, because you will have one of those and you will feel satisfied. You will feel good, you will satisfy the craving, and you'll be able to move on and tie yourself over until your next meal. And that food noise isn't going to consume you because you're satisfying absolutely every single thing you're talking about. Food noise only really happens when there is some form of restriction or a past relationship with food that has been hindered. Okay, so if you can overcome that by introducing these things, telling yourself you're allowed to enjoy a meal out with your family, allowed to have a takeaway, allowed to enjoy a bar of chocolate with your lunch in work alongside your normal lunch, you will not have that food noise there. Which also means when you come home after work, you're less than likely to go into the cupboards and pick for something, because you've actually had substantial meals throughout the day to keep yourself full and keep yourself happy. Because the truth is, if you've under-eaten all day, you will feel hungry. So you will end up eating maybe not the best choices, or end up grabbing things, and then you're going to question yourself. What's wrong with me? Why can't I control myself around food? Why do I binge eat? I'm a binge eater. You're applying that identity to yourself, and it's not because that's who you are, or because you have no willpower, or you're out of control. It's because you're applying that identity simply through setting yourself up for failure from the moment you woke up that morning. You skipped breakfast, you grabbed coffee on the go, you didn't eat properly for your lunch, you grabbed the likes of a salad or had a protein bar for your lunch. Then you're starving driving on your way home. You're thinking about having to cook dinner, but you know that's going to take you half an hour, so you're just going to nibble on something in between. You have set yourself up to be in that cycle. So if you just make those small tweaks throughout the day, I can promise you will feel in a lot more control, and you're not going to be questioning yourself every single evening. And this is the truth. If you haven't eaten all day, you're going to be hungry, and your body's going to tell you that. Okay, those cravings aren't coming from nowhere. That hunger isn't coming from nowhere. That's literally biology. If you have been under eaten all day, your body is asking for energy, it's asking for fuel, which you need. Okay, but where your mindset comes into play with this, and the psychology side of things comes into play, is because you've been restricting yourself. So you're now telling yourself you don't deserve to have a nice meal, or you can't get over these, or you can't sort of control these hunger cues that are happening in your body, because you can. So to break this down, binge eating doesn't come from a discipline issue. Okay, we all have discipline. For some it's just deeper rooted than others, but we all have discipline when we care enough about something. The issue with this, and the reason that you keep binge eating at night, is because you're setting yourself up for failure from the moment you wake up, like I said earlier. Okay, and that's the main thing that you need to remember. So it's not that you need to stop binge eating, or you just, need to not be as hungry, or whatever it is that you're telling yourself. You just need to set yourself up for a good, successful day, which requires structure. So that that's what you're lacking. You're not lacking willpower, you're not lacking discipline, you are lacking structure with your meals, with your schedule, with your day-to-day routine. So start having meals consistently throughout the day that actually keep you full, that the protein is high in them, that you're having actual whole meals that consist of protein, carbs and fats. You're not grabbing the likes of a protein bar or a coffee and calling it a lunch when you know it's not a lunch. If you wouldn't let your child eat like that, you shouldn't be eating like that too. Do you know what I mean? So that's the main aspects that you need to focus on. It's just building structure throughout the day, and I promise you, you will overcome that identity that you have at the minute of I'm just a binge eater. You're not a binge eater. You're setting yourself up for failure. And if you're stuck in that cycle and you just can't overcome it and you need that support, don't be afraid to message me. Contact me on Instagram. Reach out by clicking the link in my bio if you want to have a little bit more support and guidance in the background to help you overcome this, because trust me, I work with women like this every single day that struggle with binge eating and think it's consuming their whole identity. But a lot of the time we're able to break down the barriers fairly quickly, unless there's something deeper rooted underlying, like emotional, psychological, coming from their childhood or whatever else. But if it's just coming down to you not having structure and you not knowing how to go about your day, I'm always here if you need me. But besides that, make sure you like this video, comment below if this is something that resonated with you, share it with anybody that it might resonate with, and yeah, I'll catch up with you all soon and see you in the next one.